It is no secret that the Mets will most likely be sellers at this year's trade deadline. At the time of this video, they sit at a 36-45 record, 9 games under 500. They are 9.5 games out of the wildcard spot and a whopping 17 games out of the Braves in the NL East. A few days ago, team owner Steve Cohen came out and addressed the team's struggles, saying that selling would not be out of the question. In recent days, Mets players have even addressed being traded themselves, with Tommy Pham even saying that he expects to be traded. That leads us into this video where I discuss the 5 Mets players that are bound to be traded at this year's August 1st deadline. And number 1 is none other than Tommy Pham. Earlier this offseason, the Mets signed Tommy Pham to a 1-year contract worth $6 million. Pham was expected to be nothing more than a 4th outfielder that could crush lefties and play all 3 outfield positions. He has turned into much more than that, as Mets outfielders Mark Canha and Starling Marte have slumped through the first half of the year.
This year, Pham has great numbers with a .273 batting average, a 1 WAR, 47 hits, 8 home runs, 31 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, which is second on the team, a .344 on base percentage, .488 slugging. He's hitting with power really well, .832 OPS, and a .130 OPS plus, which means he's 30% better than the average hitter, and his OPS is the best on the Mets team. Like, think about that. A guy that was supposed to be a bench guy has the best OPS on the Mets team. That's crazy.
Due to the fact that Pham was only signed to a 1-year deal, and he's doing great, his value will be at an all-time high going to the trade deadline, which should lead to him being traded to a contender.
For number 2 on my list of Mets that should be traded at the trade deadline, it has to be Daniel Vogelbach.
When the Mets traded for Vogelbach before last year's deadline, they wanted a guy that could hit for power in their lineup. They traded a highly touted bullpen arm Colin Holderman to the Pirates for Vogelbach, and this trade has not aged well at all. Vogelbach really hasn't been hitting for any power, he can't run, he can't play any position on the field, and he is essentially blocking Mets prospects from coming up and making an impact. Take Mark Vientos as an example. While Vogelbach's trade value might be at an all-time low, he has shown some recent signs of waking up, which could lead to the Mets shipping him off at the deadline. As much as I hate to say this, David Robertson will be traded before the deadline. He is the only guy that has delivered for the Mets in their bullpen,
with a 1.54 ERA and a .97 WHIP. He's done this in 31 games with 11 saves, so it's a pretty big sample size with 35 innings and 41 strikeouts with that.
Robertson was supposed to be the main setup man ahead of Edwin Diaz, but due to Diaz getting injured in the WBC, Robertson was moved to the closer role. Now that he has shown he can do anything in the bullpen, it's pretty obvious that the selling Mets could and should make the most of his peaking value.
In 2022, Mark Canha was a solid player for the Mets, but he's in this video because of how bad he's been in 2023.
This year, Canha was moved to more of a platoon bench role to free up space in the lineup for the red-hot Tommy Pham. Due to his ability to play multiple infield and outfield positions and his proven MLB bat, Canha would be a trade candidate to free up space for incoming Mets prospects. Canha also has a year and a half left on his cheap contract that a playoff team should be more than willing to take on. The Mets could get back some decent players for Canha because of his above-average on-base percentage. If you had told me the Mets were going to think about trading Max Scherzer at the beginning of this year, I would have called you crazy. In 2022, Max posted an amazing 2.29 ERA through 145.1 innings of work. This year, Scherzer is close to a 4 ERA, which is very average for any pitcher, let alone a guy getting paid $43 million. The only reason I even have him in this video is because he has talked about suggesting a trade and about speaking to Mets owner Steve Cohen about being traded. If the Mets were to trade Scherzer, they would need to eat some of his monster contract, but if they ate enough of it, they could get some pretty big difference makers back for his services.
Thank you all so much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment because it really helps me out, and I'll see you all in my next video. Let's go Mets.